Hey garden friends, welcome back to Flower Patch. Today we're going to take a real quick look at where the Secret Cottage Garden is this first week of September of 2023. Summer has flown by. Well, June we didn't really have a summer, so we didn't get warm weather till July, and then it took everything a while to get going that needed warmth. And even my zinnias that I direct sowed, my cosmos that I direct sowed, neither one of them did very well. I have some cosmos back here that just started coming up. They're only about this tall. I doubt that I will get any blooms before our first freeze unless we have an exceptionally warm Indian summer and don't get any snow or frost until November. And that being said, we were just going to take a quick look, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that I'm thinking about doing because, well, I'll explain as I go along. Well, right here, we're at the entrance. Now, I'll pan you to the right really quickly. We usually start right here by this section next to the studio. You know what? I don't have my fountain plugged in. My hummingbirds are wondering where their shower is. I'll do that in a second, but I have a few things staged down here. This Calibrachoa in this hanging pot was a total surprise. Those all came back by themselves in that pot. They, I guess, reseeded from last year, and it's just been beautiful. I need to hang it back out in the sunshine. I tucked it over here because I was giving it a good soak, and then I didn't get it hung back up, but I will do so. Now, my project with the two pots here and here to create like a gateway into the Secret Cottage Garden, I've just loved it. So I do know that this one will have to be moved before snow because it would get toppled over by the snow falling off the roof of the studio, but I like the effect they are having. Now let's move forward. I did, this sedum down here is just gorgeous. I'm loving it. I am going to move the one in the back. I'm going to move it to the other side over here, and it'll do great. Now right down there in the pathway, let's move forward just a wee bit. This is my galaxy grass, and I just love how it has the sparkly little seed heads, I'm supposing, but when the sun is hitting it, they glimmer in the sun, so it's real sparkly. This came up by itself. I had planted it last year or the year before, and when it started to come up here, I just let it because in the other areas I had it, I either pulled it thinking it was a weed, or it just didn't come up. But I'm really loving it right there, even though that's not the primo spot for it. Now look at my centerpiece. That has been the biggest success of the year. This is, of course, my petunias I started from seed last winter, spring. And this is Denim Shades Wave Petunia and a white wave petunia. Love it. Gorgeous. It has just done what I wanted it to do. I did not want it to get so vigorous that it came down and covered the outer circle, and it did just fine. It stayed within the area I wanted it to while blooming profusely. These petunias, the petunias themselves are a little bit smaller than other petunias, but I still love it. Mass of color. The outer ring below, I still have some of my boxwoods that I started from cuttings. I have an idea of what direction I want to go with this next year, and we'll see if I stick to that plan. But I'm thinking Alyssum all the way around, just pure white Alyssum. And I'll show you an example of some in just a second. Now, my Elfin Thyme, that's Elf, E-L-F-I-N, Thyme, is filling in quite nicely in between the stepping stones. I do have to keep up with the oxalis weeds that try to encroach, and I still haven't decided whether I'm going to stick with just the thyme or if I'm going to fill in with gravel and what have you, just so I don't have to always be picking weeds. This container, I don't remember if I filmed my emptying it. I had some beautiful little daffodils in it. It was over by the bench in the corner, but when the daffodils were finishing up and looking really scruffy, I decided to move it. And I planted my Coco Loco roses in it. Now this is a volunteer right here, and I let it go because I thought it would be great color here at the end of summer. But my Coco Loco, this one was loaded. It just finished. I just deadheaded it. But look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buds on this one. I don't know if you can see that color. Let me see if I can get it. Can you see that? Oh, that is just such a gorgeous color. I love it. Now these zinnias I planted in here are like Empress Pink or something, and they were a dollar store seed packet. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in here coming up. Oh, 5. Here's another one that started to come up. 6. So those will be a real pretty pink and bloom alongside the Coco Loco roses. Now we're just putting the Coco Loco roses in this container on the short term. I will find a place for them out in the garden, and then they'll have room to grow. This is kind of shallow for roses, but for now they will be fine, and they are doing fine. So this bench has been a staging area for many things. I have status that I started from seed and I never got it in the ground, and that's where it's sitting. So I need to plop it out in the ground somewhere. Not that I probably will get, I might get blooms if we have a long fall, but I'm not going to hold my breath. This is my Summer Crush hydrangeas. I was thinking of putting those out in front. I took out the Bobo paniculata hydrangeas because they didn't do well in the front because it didn't get enough sunshine. And these said they could take some sun and shade. So I think these might do well up there, and I was going to poke them up there and try them. I'll keep them in the pots the first season up there and see, and then I'll put them in the ground if they do work out. Some of my extras, coleus, I planted right here in the ground, and they have done beautifully. And I also have over here, it gets a little bit of morning sun and then afternoon shade. So I have things that I've started from cuttings or divisions sitting over here, as well as on right there on my bench. That's some Nepeta I started from root divisions. So this is, like I said, kind of a staging area or a sitting area for things like that, and I can keep an eye on them. And it's perfect conditions right here for them. This bed. Now this bed is going to change. So let me back it up here a little bit. And I will talk to you about what I'm planning right here. So this bed had white swan echinaceas in it. And it also, I had some pink, I still have another one over there, pink echinaceas. Here's some more galaxy grass right here in containers right here. The white swan all got eaten by gophers. The ones that were in the pots when they came up and started blooming, let me see, do I have it around here? I moved it. I was moving it away from this echinacea. It had also that Astor's yellow, so it was affected. So I've been pulling those up. But, and here's the hole where I had it planted. But here, this one is doing just fine. See this one? No struggles whatsoever. I've been pulling up the morning glories that have been climbing up it, so it doesn't make it topple over anymore. I get morning glories volunteers all over, and I just pull up the ones I don't want. And this, you know, I need to stake this. But my plans for this garden bed, it just didn't do that great this year. I have a cat's meow Nepeta in here that will get moved. The echinaceas will get moved. I have an oriental poppy right here. I fully anticipate the gophers coming and eating it because I've noticed they are back, and that is one of their favorites. So my plan for here, I have the raised beds that I had out in my vegetable garden. Still, I have them sitting behind the studio in a spot. I am going to put one here, not all the way up against the fence, because back there is some shrubs that I have planted. And I am going to dig up everything that's here, put down the raised bed on top of a wire mesh to protect from gophers. And then when I plant my white swan echinacea or whatever else I want, maybe roses in here, they will not get eaten by the gophers. So they'll be protected, and I won't have to worry anymore. This bed, like I said, has been ravaged. So I have things in pots in here. The Nepeta, they don't bother so far, so that's good. And there's this plant over here is a white phlox, and it's just taking, so last year at this time it was blooming away. But anyway, so that is my plan for that bed. Now I'm going to back you up. I am thinking maybe, still debating it in my mind, of moving my tool shed and then putting another raised bed here, and then moving this bench will move over to the patio in front of my studio cottage, Primrose Cottage. And because this spot right here, all back here, gets the most sun that I get in the majority of my garden. So that would be perfect for putting in a cutting garden or things like zinnias and dahlias and things like that, because it really gets the hot sun. And I do have 3 or 4 of those raised beds. And behind there is the bobo hydrangeas. I would put the raised bed just in front of that. And yeah, that climbing rose, we'll get a little closer to that back there. That's blooming so pretty. That was one of those cheapo $9 roses from Lowe's in a bag or a little tub. And I just thought I would give it a whirl and see. And that's America. So it's not own root. I do prefer own root, but for $9 I couldn't pass it up and giving it a try. So let's move forward towards that bench. Now I have a bunch of Nicotiana that came up from seed. You see some right here, the pink flowers. Isn't that gorgeous? And then that climbing rose. Such a pretty coral pink, and it's just bloomed for the last few weeks non-stop. I have a crazy daisy back here, but it's done blooming. There's one seed head there that I will collect seeds from. But you see all the Nicotiana coming up down here? Now this poppy, this is Lauren's grape that has the seeds heads on it. I don't know why. I think spider mites got to it, because that's what it looked like. But also I just, discovered a big gopher hole down here. See, right? Well, maybe you can see it down there. And so I'm worried about the bobo hydrangeas, but they have struggled. See the little teeny tiny leaves on them since I transplanted them. So I'm not sure what's going on with those, but it could be the gophers undermining, if not eating, the roots. So that's why I need those raised beds in here. So let's go on this side. Look, I have a dahlia back there. Now the dahlias you can probably see the pot down there at the base rim. When I planted them in the ground, I planted them in the pots so that the gophers could eat them. Gophers love dahlias, so that's why I did it that way. So I'm hoping they don't go after my delphinium back there, but I'm not going to hold my breath. But I could always grow more from seed. That's this, let's see, what is that called? It's not the Centurion. I'll put the name up on the screen. I'll look at it. I get the seeds from New Zealand, from Dowdswell Delphiniums. So here is a Gara. This is Pretty in Pink, I think it's called. It stays shorter. I like the shorter version because it looks less weedy and it's more contained in the garden. Just love this thing. Behind it with the blue flowers, that's a hardy geranium called Orion. Many have claimed it's better than Roxanne, or Roseanne. Is it Roseanne? Roseanne. And, you know, it has bloomed pretty, but I wouldn't say it's better than Roseanne in my garden anyways. So in front of it is Patricia. Now this one, I think I do. Let me get down there and I can show you. So this is Patricia, and this is a hardy geranium, and it was getting flopping all over the garden. And you see, I put one of these little rings around it, and as it was growing, I just made sure that the vines or the stems were threading up through it. So that's how I make it be more upright and less floppy around the garden. So, oh yeah, I wanted to show you. Here is where I put in the Alyssum. I think this is Crystal Falls, or I can't remember the name. Anyways, I had some on the other side. I loved it so much, and it filled in so beautifully as an edging that I got more and put over here. So, oh, there's one of my zinnias that I put in direct sowed, and it's finally coming up. I might even see a bloom. Let's move on back. That hydrangea I planted last summer or spring. I shared with you how I planted it and what I did. This is Quickfire Fab. This is a Proven Winners variety, and it seems to be doing okay. I keep an eye on it in case the gophers start eating it. I would quickly dig it up and put it in a pot if I found any evidence of them eating on it. So I would hate for them to eat it up. So I have some climbing roses here. This one I do think is Kiss of Desire. Let me see. Isn't that pretty? Anyways, I need to tie it up. There's a cane flopping down, but it's growing up this arbor with the iceberg. Iceberg is getting a little wild and woolly, so I need to tie it in a little bit, but it is beautiful. Here, and over here is Colette. During the heat of the summer, she kind of, not floundered, but didn't bloom. And then now that it's cooling back down, she's blooming again. I was out here tying it up, and I thought, you know what? It's pretty out here. I need to get a video. So I can see evidence of the gophers on the back of my heart, digging up the dirt back there. So there's another evidence that they are back. They had been kind of calm this summer and hadn't been really eating anything, and all of a sudden I noticed they are back. So this dahlia was a Longfield Gardens bag that I bought at Costco because I wasn't going to do dahlias. Mine got eaten by rodents in the basement when I overwintered them, and I just had so many struggles. And the gophers eat them, but I couldn't resist when I saw this bag of this color with, let me see, it's over here, this color. So I think this one is something Edison. And I can't remember this one, but I'm sure I have a video of it stored where I was planting them in pots. And they are in pots in the ground. So along the edge here, look at this. This is tie-dye. This is another one, Petunia I started from seed. Another wave Petunia. So here's a volunteer. Rudbeckia, Black-Eyed Susan. I love this pure yellow. Isn't that pretty? Nice big stalk. Excuse the glare from behind on the chicken house. More Nicotiana. This one is the first one. Now this one came up in a pot, and I just plunked it in the pot back here. I put it in the pot because also last year the gophers ate the Nicotiana, but so far they haven't really taken out much behind the bench, but I'm sure they will now that they're started again. And my thistle, Echinops there. Look at my poor sunflower over there, flopping over, and it's looking really droopy. I'm wondering if the gophers have been eating the roots. Could be, because we had some rain, so there's no other reason for it to be drooping that way. So I might be a victim of them. Now look down here. It's been kind of crowded out, but this is a lemony lace elderberry that I wanted here. I wanted it to get nice and tall to obscure the backdrop here of the chicken house. The chicken house, my husband says he's going to build me a new one, so it'll take time. No big hurry. I did buy paint to paint this one, and when he said he was going to rebuild it, I'm like, why should I go to the trouble of painting? So, but he did. Oh, let me show you. He did fix the greenhouse roof. So we have ideas for this winter, and he keeps changing his mind of what those ideas are, but I will wait patiently for him to do that. So more of this heuchera. Heucheras don't always do great for me. And look at this. It was like caramel something. I can't remember, but it's really pretty. It's filling in there nicely. So my boxwoods. I want boxwoods to be lined up all along here so that we have green when everything is drab in the garden. Here. Hey, Rachel. You coming to say hello to everybody? More petunias I started from seed. Gomphrena, this I left it too long in the greenhouse. So it's tiny, but it's blooming away. I think I'm going to make sure I do some more next year from seed, but I will make sure to get it in the ground sooner. than I did this one. So there are weeds in here. This grass, I thought it was a specialty grass that I had planted, but it doesn't look very special, so I need to pull that up before it goes to seed. This is the one zinnia that I ended up getting, and I started it inside. I never start zinnias inside and then plant them out. I've always direct sown, but this year that did not work. So I think next year I will plant a bunch, start them early inside, and then bring them out and plant them. My Hyde Hall rose is starting to bloom more and get real pretty. And we're coming from this side of the circle now, in case you didn't realize. Now over here, I've noticed more gopher. There's a gopher hole right underneath this alyssum. And yeah, so they're busy in here. Fortunately, so far, I don't have anything that they like to eat that's not protected in this bed. So far, so good. That's my guava ice echinacea. I think it's in a pot. I think I will move it where it gets more sun and is not obscured by taller plants next year. I didn't know how tall it got, but obviously it's not tall enough. But it's bloomed nonstop since I got it when we went to Annie's Annuals. Well, you know, once it started blooming, and I'm loving it. Here is my Junior Walker's Nepeta. And it's reaching for the sun. So it's getting a little bit taller than I anticipated, but that's okay. It's been blooming just beautifully. I also may move it to somewhere where it'll get more sun and be more upright. Now down here, I don't know what this is, but it's a volunteer. It kind of has the leaf structure of my phlox, but I'm not sure. So we'll see what happens there. There's a volunteer Nicotiana. I don't want it there, so I'm going to pull that up when I come in here and weed. But over here is where I first had the row of Alyssum and loved it. It's gotten a little wild and woolly, but I can prune it up and it'll be pretty. But look at how that just brightens up all the flowers around it. This is Ageratum. I didn't do these justice. I had a whole container filled with a bunch. I just popped the whole container into the soil. So if I would have divided them out, they would have done better. They would just say they've done better. Now here is some lamium that I need to get in check, and I will do so. This one has the white flower, and I really like this one. I'm going to use it in other areas of the garden. And I'll share with you how I keep them in check when I plant them, because it can become a bully and take over, but it's super easy to pull back into range of where you want it. Loving these salvias that I grew from seed. They just are doing beautifully. I did not anticipate them doing so well or getting so tall, but that's okay. I am enjoying them immensely. My roses, there's my firefighter rose down there being obscured by the salvia. And yeah, I can pull the salvia back a little bit. They're leaning forward for the sun too, and then I can see my rose better. But I just wanted to get out here and hurry up and get you a video of what the Secret Cottage Garden looks right now. These two echinaceas, I had thought of placing them in something like these pots, along with some blue petunias, light blue petunias, and placing them, let me try to move slow, on either side of the bench. But now that I'm thinking of putting that raised bed here and moving the bench, I am rethinking that. But everything is in flux, so we'll wait a bit and see what's going to happen. So as you can see, the sun's coming around the trees again and starting to shine the sun on there, and that's why this spot's really good, because it gets a lot of sun, whereas a lot of my garden does not, especially this time of year, as I am surrounded by tall evergreens. I guess I could give you a shot of those if you haven't seen them before. Well, you know what? I could just go up here, and you can see big old cedar and a pine here. And even though that's the north side, just on the south side they are the same, and the east and west. So that's where I struggle to get direct sun in my garden because of the tall trees. And when it gets lower in the sky during this season, let me see, I don't want the sun to flare into your eyes, then it's harder for sun-loving plants in my garden. But I work with it. I grow what I can. High summer, they get plenty of sunlight because the sun is higher in the sky, and I just enjoy. So let's let it adjust to, yeah, there we go, to the light. And that is my Secret Cottage Garden on this early September day. I will see you guys in the next video.